Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us tonight on episode 19, season 4 of the Standoff with Brad and Richie here on New Zealand Sport Radio. We're here live every Wednesday on Facebook throughout the season. Richie is not here tonight. He is stuck in Gisborne on a work business, so I will bring in Paul, who's volunteered to jump in and help me out tonight. So, evening, Paul. There was no Warriors game in the weekend. But there's some good games, which I'm sure you watched. But first of all, how are you? And are you looking forward to doing the show tonight?
I'm pissed off straight away. You're still saying Brad and Richie. It's not a Brad and Richie. This is a Brad and Paul show. Jeez, come on, step me up. Deary me. I just false advertising at the top of the show there, folks. And for all those of you that turned off, hope you turn back on again. Now you know that I'm here.
So, thank you so much for joining me tonight, Paul. And while we're here live on Wednesdays, you'll also catch our show at your convenience on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and all those things. Just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. As always, we're going to cover everything you need to know in the week that was rugby league, including our top stories of the week, a review of round 16, and an update of our tips. We'll then stop and answer some questions from you, as well as some questions we've prepared for each other. Richie was able to send us his question, so we can answer that.
Now. My question
Paul's
now.
question now, so Paul's going to look like he knows what he's talking about, which is great. We'll then preview round 17 and make our picks before ending the night with a recap of the Super League. So remember to send us comments and questions throughout the show, and we may as well jump straight into it, Paul.
Yeah, well, actually, no. How was your weekend? We've not talked about your weekend.
It was fantastic. I watched my cousin play basketball. He lost. Kind of blames me, I guess, because I haven't seen him win a game live yet. So
you've got to sign basketball for us to do a giveaway on the channel for?
No, I couldn't even get a free ticket, Paul. You know, I'm not the favorite cousin, I guess, but that was good.
Oh, yeah, the losing mascot, that's why.
Yeah, and it's always good to have something to fill a weekend when the Warriors aren't playing, since that kind of is the focal point of my life. So, it was good. But news time. First one is Ben Hunt. We've talked a little bit about it in previous episodes, but he's actually officially requested his release from the Dragons. The Dragons CEO actually came out publicly and said they've rejected his request and want to speak with him and see if they can talk him around. There were also rumors that he's willing to spend $150K of his own money to get out of his contract. And there's multiple clubs interested in him, including the Bulldogs and, as always, the Roosters. So what's your take on this, Paul, from outside of rugby league sport aspect of a player demanding to be let go early and a player sticking to their guns, or a club sticking to their guns, sorry?
Well, look, it comes down to what I guess this one comes down to money, doesn't it? When we talk about RTS later on, we're going to talk about a similar sort of thing, aren't we? Look, if you're in football where you've got unlimited cash and unlimited budget, then you can send a player down and take a stand for a while and just eat it. Unfortunately, in the NRL, if they sort of turn up and play and do everything they're supposed to, that's that salary cap that's gone, that you know it's not performing as well as it should do because it's not happy. So with the salary cap thing, especially if it's one of your top players and one of your big chunks of salary cap, you've got to offload it to, otherwise it's going to hit your performance, unfortunately. So I don't think they're in any situation here to, if he's that upset already, he's not going to be talked around. The only thing he can be at the Dragons for is the cash. I mean, sure, the Bulldogs aren't having a great season, but there's more upside to them than the Dragons, let's be honest, in the short term to do relatively well. And the Roosters, obviously, they're a contending team. So, why would you want to start the Dragons, unfortunately? And
Yeah, well, I'm biased with the Dragons, so it's interesting.
A bit like the Tigers as well. Why would you want to be at one of those bottom two teams if you're not actually happy there? You're not there for the money. If you enjoy the people and you're happy there, then great, that's fine. But if you're not happy, there's no reason to eat that pain, to stick around.
Yeah, and I'm all for teams, holding these players to contracts because we've talked about it so much on the show, and we talk about it about the Dragons in just a second. But contracts mean very little anymore. Like you can sign for 5 years, you'll be gone in 2. But yeah, as you said, like it's such a massive part of the salary cap. You're trying to rebuild your club because it's at rock bottom right now. Do you really want a disgruntled player that's just gonna, jog around? He'll do what he can. I suppose you could put the angle on it that he'll want to play well to get a good deal elsewhere, but people know the type of player he is, and I think if he's playing poorly when he's unhappy, I think other clubs are going to know the reason why. So I would just let him go.
Yeah, his reputation is already made, isn't it? People know who he is. So sometimes the contract's not worth paper written on. Look, I mean, they are to a certain degree, but you're just going to be flexible about them, and actually run a decent club. If you're not running a decent club, then that's your own fault, isn't it?
Yeah, and speaking of the contracts not being what they're written on, the Dragons also confirmed at the same time that they've released Josh Kerr immediately from his contract to join the Dolphins early. He signed, I think it's a 2 or 3 year deal with the Dolphins starting next year, but the Dragons have decided they'll just let him go now. So yeah, they're letting one player go, but they're really not keen on letting their best player go. So interesting times there. But yeah, any takes on Josh Kerr and letting a front rower go early?
Look, it just seems a bit strange, doesn't it? That the one they're going to let go, one they're not. I guess that's another part of it. You got to treat your players the same. I guess if he's only under contract for a couple more months, then you can understand why they let him go early, just to save the cash, really. But I guess look, it's. I think you should have one rule for all your players.
And continuing with the requesting releases news, Matt Lodge from the Roosters has requested an immediate release from the Roosters, and they've basically accepted it and told him he's free to find a new home, and if he finds one, he can go. So it's quite a common story when it comes to Matt Lodge. That is his MO. He goes to a club and then he requests an immediate release and goes somewhere else.
He's like his reputation is going to walk in front of him if he's not careful, and he's going to find less and less clubs interested. So he's going to be careful how many times he does this.
Yeah, like I said before the show, Paul, I think he's going to go to his daddy-in-law's club, the Dolphins, potentially. That seems like the only place that might take him because he's got family ties there, but we'll see. Perhaps we'll have a new club for him by the time we have our show next week.
It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Exactly.
Before you jump on to the next thing, which is we'll sort of ease in there. So Robbie's saying loving your mullet. Now, folks, as I think we've mentioned on the previous shows, Brad is doing his Shave for a Cure. So I'm going to put the link in the live chat. So this is the for you, so you can help Brad raise money. He's on $1,282 so far, and on Friday, the 30th of June, he'll be getting it all shaved off. I'm going to be there. I'm going to drive up to Auckland, especially. We're going to video it, probably live, maybe even live stream it for you all. So do go on the Shave for a Cure site that I'm putting in the live chat right now, and please give to this very good cause. Also on that, Robbie then says that he'll buy you a beer at the sold out game. Now, Robbie, if you just wait until the 30th and for the Roosters game, I'm going to be there as well. You can buy me a beer as well, so that'd be great.
Yeah, which that goes into Robbie's other comment he put in saying, would Paul ever accept our invite and go to a Warriors game one day? So yes, the 30th, the next home game against the Rabbitohs, Paul, since he's coming up and videoing the hair and everything, he's going to come and watch a proper game of sport and watch the Warriors. If the Warriors don't succeed, they'll be the last one you come to.
No, I have been to a league game before. I've seen Great Britain beat Australia at Wembley in a World Cup
That
group game
doesn't
a long
count.
time ago.
Internationals don't count as real games anymore. How many times do we talk about they don't take international seriously?
Yeah.
But no, it should be a good game. I've got it coming up in the injury news, but Latrell Mitchell has been saving himself for a couple of weeks and is going to make that his first game back, which is always great. But yeah, it should be a good time. Looking forward to it. But yeah, speaking about the Warriors and the stadium, they're actually going to be renaming Go Media Stadium to Daniel Anderson Stadium for their round 25 clash against the Seagulls. As we've mentioned a couple of weeks ago, round 25 of the NRL will be known as the Daniel Anderson round, where they're going to be working on raising funds to support him in his battle after his spinal injury. So great move by the club. And yeah, hopefully they can make some big money for him. Anything you want to add about the Warriors changing the name of the stadium for the second time in a year?
Well,
for a good reason, you know.
This was for a good reason. It's look, it raises awareness, and hopefully all the fans get behind them. It'll be a sellout and fill those buckets, folks.
Definitely. And now a part we can actually bring you into properly. So Roger Tuivasa-Sheck feels like every waking minute in the media we're hearing his name. He wasn't selected in the World Cup squad. The NRL world has just been filled with rumors recently about him getting out of his contract early and joining the Warriors. There's even been rumors that the Roosters are interested in bringing him in for the rest of the year. The Warriors have come out and said that they've not spoken to him. There was on NRL 360 last night, there was a conversation that the Warriors have actually officially inquired with the NRL about how much it would cost to bring Roger back now for the remainder of this year in terms of salary cap space and whatnot. The New Zealand Rugby Union have come out and said they expect to see him play out his contract in the local competition. Is it ITM Cup still? Is that what they call it, or is it something else?
It's the Bunnings NPC.
Okay, so we're back to NPC. Cool. So NPC, but they did kind of say if he requested a release, it's something they could discuss. There's been no official request from him, but what's your take, Paul? You've obviously got that rugby union background and can help us out there.
Well, look, I mean, there is still an outside chance that he could go to the Rugby World Cup, and so you can see why he would stick around in case of injuries from that point of view. I guess the other thing that I would say is, look, again, it comes out of that salary cap, doesn't it? How much does how much would it cost the Warriors? Do they have space in that cap? Do they really need him at the moment either? And look, they've got it looks like they've got a good squad, a good that is all happy with itself, and so from that point of view, I wouldn't bring that disruption in. He's not conditioned for this for NRL at the moment, and so you got to say that I think he would. I think it's the wrong move for him to come back. I think, look, do it at the time frame that they've said before, and keep it like that. I think rushing him back, I'm not sure what you'd gain, and I don't think he's in the right shape. You might hurt, you might break him because of the different body, the contact's different. So I'm not sure it's great.
Yeah, I still would like to see him, but I've everything I've heard from the Warriors camp about them saying they want him to, see out his contract and do a full preseason before he's back in the mix. Makes sense to me. And like you said, it'd be nice to have him, but they don't need him. It's not like they're in a disastrous situation right now. They're in a good spot. So as much as I want to see him back in a Warriors jersey, I'm happy for him to wait it out and come back, fit and fighting next year. So who knows? We might be talking about him in a Warriors jersey as soon as next week. We just don't know with how news is. But
I think him going to the Roosters is a joke, and I think that's just purely media talk to generate headlines and to fill some column inches. I think that's total bullshit. I think if he is going to come back,
love players getting players back. That's what
They
they do.
do, but look, I mean, the whole point. Look, he's settled in Auckland. He's living in New Zealand. Why would he want to uproot his life for 3-4 months across Australia? So when his body's not ready for it, I think that I think is absolutely rubbish. There is a chance he'll come to the Warriors early, but I don't think they need him. I don't think it will happen.
Yeah. So yeah, it will be an ongoing news story for the rest of the season, I'm sure. But we'll talk about it whenever there's something new. But we'll go into the international game for a little bit. The New Zealand Rugby League are apparently in discussions about hosting the 2025 Rugby League World Cup. We've talked about it when it was an idea a few weeks ago, but it sounds like they want to do it and do it on their own without Australia, but take some games to the Pacific Islands. So they're keen to get it to the Pacific Islands, but they don't want to share it with Australia because then Australia takes like the grand final and everything, as they do. It's going to be interesting. I'd love to see it here, being completely selfish, being able to go to, a few games as much as my money would allow would be great. But yeah, what's your take on New Zealand Rugby League trying to take it and manage it all on their own?
Oh, look, I think New Zealand's clearly got the ability to do that. We've got the Soccer World Cup going on at the moment because we've had the Women's Rugby World Cup. There are the people here to run that kind of event, so go for it. Absolutely. I guess the other part of it is, will they do what they did the last time, which is where they had the men's, women's wheelchair, all of them at the same time? And if so, that could be fantastic for the growth of the wheelchair game in particular, because I'm not sure that really exists here. I mean, the Wheel Blacks, for example, play the rugby version rather than the league version of wheelchair rugby.
Yeah, we didn't even have a team in the World Cup, I believe. Yeah, there was no New Zealand team. Yeah.
So I think that so I think from that point, so I think that would be amazing to give that kind of sport the boost over here, and would make people a lot more aware of that. So I'd be interested if they do all three of them. If they do all three of them, then I think the wheelchair one and the women's one will probably just be based in New Zealand, and they probably just take the men's games over to Fiji or Tonga, maybe Papua New Guinea. But no, I think it'd be a good idea, and I say that New Zealand's got the expertise to do it, so why not?
Yeah, I'd love to see it. Yeah, and I've seen there's some comments about like the cost and whatnot from Jacko. Yeah, that's always going to be the biggest concern. But I don't know. I'm hoping it works out, but we're just going to have to wait and see. It's not a decision they're going to make quickly. They're going to want to pick someone that they know will get the job done after what's happened with France bailing. It's already, made it go a step backwards with having to rejig everything. But yeah, be great to see it in New Zealand. So fingers crossed.
And look, your Tonga games will be sold out, and we'll have fantastic. Obviously, you're going to host those in Hamilton and Auckland. So you're not going to want to take them further away than that. And having those big crowds, that excitement, that energy in the stands, is something that will be that they know they'll get here, which is important for the TV audience. Because one of the things that's come out recently is around TV audiences of Super Rugby versus NRL. Apparently, Super Rugby is higher, and all the quarterfinals last time were higher than the Warriors games. But if you watch a game on TV, you'd think that the NRL is much more popular in New Zealand because of the crowd numbers, right? The atmosphere that you get in a Warriors game comes across on TV is much better than you get at the Super Rugby games, and you want that to be that's part of selling the game, because all of us assumed that those ones would be that those the TV figures would follow that, but apparently they haven't done. Nicholas, we'll do questions after we've done the review of the round. We'll ask that question to Brad, so don't you worry about that. So, absolutely, I think it'd be fantastic to hold it in New Zealand. There'll be good crowds, And I think you should take some games down to Wellington and to Christchurch, especially if the NRL, I think you're putting a team down there, host a bunch of games down there. Again, build the audience, build the fan base ahead of time.
Yeah, definitely. Next bit of news. There's been some rumours circulating that the Bulldogs are looking at signing Tyrone May from 2024 as he wishes to return from France back to New Zealand. He's had his fair share of... He's had his fair share of issues on and off the field. He is a good player when his mind's right, and going to the Bulldogs seems to make sense because they're currently the Panthers B team, and he's another former Panther. So I'm sure we'll hear about that in the next couple of weeks, Paul. What's your take on Tyrone May and your excessive knowledge of all the games he's played?
I suppose I've got no take on that one. Good luck to him to come back, and let's hope he gets does his talking on the pitch and on the back pages, not the front pages.
Yeah, and last bit of news before we get into signings, injuries, and the naughty boy corner. Alex Twal, as the title of our show tonight suggests, he finally scored a try in the NRL. Paul, he's played 116 games without scoring, and it finally happened. I did have the stat. There was a player that had gone longer than Twal, but this was kind of, I don't want to say the running joke, but it was kind of always a thing. Whenever the Tigers were about to play, it was all like, will Alex get a try tonight? And in pure Alex Twal fashion, it wasn't, the most spectacular try. There was a kick into the in goal, a tap back, and he kind of just fell on it. He looked like he was almost trying to push his teammates out of the way to make sure he got it. But never been prouder as a former prop, seeing a prop finally get there. And we'll talk about it later when we talk about the Tigers Storm game. It was really the only highlight you could probably pull out of the Tigers' performance, but seeing the whole team get around him and be really stoked, brought a tear to the old man's eye over here. So what's your take on it? I know I was speaking with my grandmother this week about it because she was like, what's the big deal? Props don't score a lot of tries. And I looked at like the Warriors stats this year, apart from Adam Fanua-Blake, who scored 5, every prop bar the Kepu boy who's injured all year and Mitch Barnett, they've basically all scored all of our props. So most teams can usually get a prop across the line. But yeah, it's good to see the Tigers finally do it for Alex.
Absolutely. Go Tiger Town. Yeah.
So that was all the news we had. So we'll go into signings. I only had one, and then we got a couple of new ones today. So the first one was the Panthers have extended the deal of Sonny Luke, their young hooker, until the end of 2025. I think Jacko's mentioned it there. But Jake Averillo has signed with the Dolphins until the end of 2026. He's leaving the Bulldogs. He also isn't a Panthers player, so he doesn't fit what they want. And then the Eels announced 3 extensions today. Josh Hodson until the end of 2024, Dejan Arce until the end of 2024, and Bailey Simonson until the end of 2025. So I know you don't have too much knowledge on this, Paul, but some decent signings. I think Jake Averillo, is a massive deal for the Dolphins. I think he's been playing reasonably well for the Bulldogs this year, and it's very surprising to see them let him go. But it's good to see some players get rewarded.
Yeah, look, if I would have been unsure about going to the Dolphins for the first few years while they got themselves established, but the way they've gone this season, why wouldn't you go there? I mean, they've stamped themselves early doors. He's at a team that's 16th in the table, and he's going for a team that's got a chance of making the playoffs in their first season. I mean, especially if he's from that kind of area, wants to be up in Brisbane way, then why not? It seems like a great move. As far as the Panthers re-signing, look, if you're the top team or one of the top teams, keep hold of your players. It's got to be a good signing. Got to be a good thing for them. The Eels one, a bit interesting. Look, just 1 year extensions for a couple of these guys. Perhaps they're not too confident then about that, unless they're older guys. But
yeah, Hodgson's getting on, and Dejan Arce, he was with the Warriors. He's a young guy that he's going to get 1 or 2 games a year depending on injuries. So I think they're kind of not giving him a big deal. So you don't know how much you're going to get out of him. So that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess if it's a small deal, he might be thinking, no, look, I don't do a Sonny Bill. You get yourself signed up for 5 years on low money and then become a superstar. Like he did when he first joined.
Yep. So now we'll go into injuries. Only really got 2 major ones. Kurt Capewell from the Broncos has injured his quad and is going to miss the next 2 matches. Helam Lukey from the Cowboys, he's going to miss 6 weeks after sustaining a facial fracture. Luke Keary has avoided the potential broken jaw from the weekend. That's all fine. He's cleared to play. And as mentioned earlier, Latrell Mitchell from the Rabbitohs is missing tonight's Origin game due to his calf injury. He's also missing the Rabbitohs game this week to ensure he's 100% ready to go for round 18 against the Warriors. So as luck has it, the Warriors always get these big guys coming back against them. So great news for the Rabbitohs, I guess, not so good for us.
Well, no, but doing the right thing, get properly healed rather than rushing back.
Yeah. And for the first time, I think, ever on the show, Paul, we have no one in the naughty boy corner. There was not a single fine or suspension in round 16.
Yeah. I mean, what's the world coming to? I mean, it's just not NRL. It's disgusting. It's just not. It's just not league.
Yeah, I don't know. So we may as well get into talking about round 16. So first up, we had the Cowboys ruining our multi in the first game, beating the Panthers 27-23. I'm gonna have to do bloody Richie's naming of all the tries, aren't I? There was some tricky names.
If we need to name all the tries, but go on, yes.
So yeah, Cowboys scored 5 tries. Scott Drinkwater got 2. Tom Dearden got 1. Kyle Falk got 1, and Kuli Kefu Finifuiaki got 1 as well. And then for the Panthers, Isaac Targo got a double, Jermaine Salmon got 1, and Tom Jenkins got 1. So we don't have Richie's notes here, but I can go with mine and then that you discuss, Paul. So for the Cowboys, they had a lot of their strike weapons out due to Origin, but they grinded hard in this match. They were behind in most of the stats, but their veterans stepped up and kept them in the contest, and then they held their nerve in Golden Point and got the win with actually quite a nice tie. We keep asking each week, Paul, if they're back on track, but perhaps they might actually be in the right direction now. They're kind of stringing a couple of wins together now.
Look, they climbed themselves up to 13th, they're only 2 points off the off the final, off top 8. So yes, they're a long way back, but it's such a tight table that they're back in the mix for the playoffs, which for the finals, which is scary considering how kind of they're written off earlier in the season, how bad we said they were going.
Yeah, definitely. And with the Panthers, they were obviously down on a lot of troops as well with Origin and some injuries. And I don't think they actually did much wrong in this game. They had a few errors and a few poor defensive moments in Golden Point, which kind of sealed their fate. Once they got to Golden Point, I kind of thought it was going to be an easy win for them. But yeah, that's the risk of going to Golden Point. You got to seal it in the 80 minutes. But what's your take on one of my teams to beat, the Panthers, getting beaten here?
Look, I mean, as you say, it's an Origin game round, so these things do happen.
Yeah,
I wouldn't read too much into it.
Yeah, and my player that I picked to stand out was Scott Drinkwater. Getting the match winner kind of ticked him over in my books. So thought it was a great effort from him.
And look, I mean, they kept it close. It wasn't like that, like they got blown out. We had 2 close games to kick off the weekend, and then it became a bit one-sided after that, didn't it?
It did, yeah. So the next game, the Roosters finally remember what it was like to win, defeating the Knights 18-16, 3 tries apiece. The Knights, Dominic Young got a double and Bradman Best. And then for the Roosters, Nat Butcher, Joseph Manu, and Daniel Tupou. So for the Roosters, the winners, it wasn't a great performance, but they did look better. They had Joseph Manu at fullback and instead of being shoehorned into the halves, and it created a more dangerous looking attack for them. Losing Luke Keary, their halfback, 20 minutes into the game didn't really help, but they managed to hold on for this much needed win. Yeah, what's your take on it?
Oh, look, for a team that's got their kind of talent and their kind of budget, to be outside the top 8 is poor, really. And they've, as you say, much needed win. They shouldn't be making this they shouldn't be making this hard work of it in some ways, because only a 2-point win over the Knights. That's that's not what their roster should be doing.
No, and Jacko made a comment that Manu should be in fullback all the time. It's a shame that is his best position, and he's got James Tedesco, who everyone worships over there in his place. So as soon as that guy retires, the Roosters might start looking good. I don't know. With the Knights, they just made too many poor decisions this game. They had some questionable attacking plays where they kind of went directions they shouldn't. And just left a lot to be desired, but they also almost snuck home with that win. But this is a game that they let slip, which you just can't do with how tight the ladder is. When we talk about the ladder later, you'll see how ridiculously close everyone is. So you really can't let a game like this slip, Paul.
No, absolutely not. I mean, they're perhaps the if we're to draw a line, I think the line goes beneath them that's kind of still in touch, and the three below them. They're kind of just the bottom of the competitive crowd, they just if you that's going to be the difference between making the 8 and make it, or where you shuffle around there is, do you close these ones out or do you let them slip?
Yeah, and the player that stood out was I've talked about him already quite a lot, but Joseph Manu. It was perhaps one of his best games this year. Great one for him there. Now we're getting into what you talked about, Paul, the one-sided games. So next game were the Eels defeating the Seagulls 34-4. Ofahiki Ogden, Bailey Simonson, Clint Gutherson, Jermaine Hopgood, Simonson again, and Makahisi Makatoa scored for the Eels, and Christian Tupalutu scored for Manly. So I thought this was a good effort from the Eels, Paul. They made it look easy, and they needed to dominate this match if they wanted to be taken seriously as a playoff contender. Big games from Gutho, Bailey Simonson, and Hopgood, and just a solid effort across the board.
Yeah, look, I mean, they're on a run now of 4 wins and 1 loss from the last 5 games. So I mean, they've hit a rich frame of form, which has got them back into the 8, and should see them pull away from the guys behind them now. This should be I mean, they're one of those teams that should, as you say, that I think you guys sort of backs do pretty well, or be in the top 8 this year, and see them have been languishing, but they seem to have got their act together now.
Yeah, and there was a shocking moment during the week before they give the 2 points for the teams that had buys at the end of the round. So there was actually a point after their win here. They went from outside of the 8 to, I think it was 4th at one point because of their points differential, because they've always had a good one even though they're outside. And then once everyone got those points, they went back down. But to be back already in the hunt in the top 8 again is a massive achievement after how poor they had been at times at the start of the year.
Well, poor results, but as you say, they've got the second best points difference in the league after the Panthers. They've got a better points difference than the Broncos, who are first.
Yeah, when they win by a lot. So it helps. But
defense is their problem. They've scored more points than anyone else in the whole league. Yeah. But they've also let in 288 points, which is also a lot. But they've scored 392. So they're they can score.
Yeah. Exactly. And for the Seagulls, it went exactly as I expected. They were without Dale Cherry Evans and Tommy Turbo. They didn't have a lot of chances, but without those guys, they just lacked the spark needed to get themselves in the match. Unfortunately, this is basically the result you're going to expect every game they play during the Origin period, in my opinion.
There's been in the match, and there's only scoring 4 points. I mean, seriously, they should, for a team. They're one of the things we've said. Look, is perhaps the wrong part of the table because their points difference suggests they should be higher.
Yep.
With only -8 now. I mean, and they've had this massive loss. They had a positive points difference experience this weekend. They should not be that far behind the Eagles. They should be more competitive than that. That's a poor outing for them, in my opinion. Looking at the stat from a stats point of view, they were disappointed with themselves in that. Did I expect them to win? No, I don't think they should have won this one, but I think they should have been within sort of 10 or
competitive,
10 or so points, not within, not 30 odd points away.
Yeah, and my player to stand out was Jermaine Hopgood. He's doing really well for the Eels this year, and it was another hard graft for him out in the middle. So exceptional game from him. Next game, Storm defeating the Tigers 28-6. So Will Warbrick.
This one I do think was right.
Yeah. So Will Warbrick scored 4 of the Storm's 6 tries. Then Tyran Wishart and Kane Bradley scored the other 2. And then obviously Tigers, we talked about it. They got 1 try through Alex Twal. So yeah, with some key players out of the Storm, I think the Storm were probably very thankful that they got the Tigers this week. Some big games from their forward pack allowed the backs to create heaps of scoring opportunities, but it was really the Warbrick show. And I think he's really settling into the NRL, which is great to see.
Yeah, look, I mean, with those kind of, against what, perhaps maybe they've dropped back a place, but yeah, bottom 2 side against the Storm, it was always going to be. They even missing their top players for Origin, they should not be worried about this sort of game. Yeah,
well, the Tigers at least can say that this year they got Alex Twal a try and they beat the Panthers, so they can hold that on there. But yeah, talking about the Tigers, it was tough match for them. I thought they put in a valiant effort, but they're just not the same level as the likes of the Storm. So it was an uphill battle all night. But yeah, seeing Twal score his first try was my highlight of the weekend.
Yep, it's good looking. You're having your first try of 100 odd games. Of a small, and also it's a shortened round. Let's be honest.
Yeah, and then my player to stand out obviously was Will Warbrick. Scoring 4 tries. As I said already, he's really settling into NRL, and it's great to see another Union convert coming over and doing well. So next game, final game. It's probably the quickest we've done one of these. See, Richard slows us down. And it helps that there's only 5
having
games.
Someone who knows what they're talking about would help you, wouldn't it?
So probably the biggest surprise in terms of blowouts, but the Sharks beating the Bulldogs 48-10. 8 tries for the Sharks: Teague Wilton, Braden Hamu-Ueli, Ronaldo Mulitalo, Cameron McInnes, Jack Williams, Thomas Hazelton, Brighton Nakora, and Jesse Ramian. And then the Sharks, Kyle Flanagan and Curtis Morin. I expected a big game from Nico Hines in this after missing out on Origin and all the talk about him not being good enough for that stage. And he didn't disappoint me here. The Sharks look back to their lethal attack like we saw in the old days last year. And while they were helped by a poor Bulldogs outfit, it was good to see my predicted premiers play some enterprising football.
Look, I'm going to disagree with you here about the most surprising blowout. The Sharks coming into this round were the biggest favourites this weekend at $1.22. They were the strongest favourites this round against a Bulldog side that's been poor. They're the only team to have given up 400 points this season. So they're one of the weakest defences in the league, up against the Sharks, who clearly know how to score points. So no, I think this was another one that was coming a bit like old, a bit like the Tigers game previously. This was another one that was looking to be a blowout.
Yeah. And Spades, it's a good choice.
That's right. Yeah. So for those on the podcast, Nicholas asked me what my beverage of choice. It's Spates gold medal tonight.
Yeah, I'll have my coffee. It's fine.
You can.
And yeah, for the Bulldogs, just a bad night, to be honest. They were missing players to Origin, missing players to injuries. It's made it a tough season for them, but they just never offered much resistance. I expect to see improvement before the year's done, but bottom 4, I think, is their likely destination by season's end still.
Bottom 3.
Bottom 3?
As I say, I think the bottom 3, I think there's a gap between 14th and 15th. We'll talk about that when we get to the table.
Yeah. And yeah, my player to stand out was Nico Hines. Didn't have much opposition, but it was a game he needed to play well in after all the talk in the media about him. So it was good to see him go out there and not let that rattle him and play the game he was meant to. So that was the round, Paul. Probably a record for getting through it quickly there.
I might be able to get to bed on time tonight.
Yeah. So what's first? The ladder? Yep. Do you want to have a go at reading the top 8 out?
Yeah, so top 8, we've got the Broncos now clear at the top by 2 points ahead of the Panthers and the Storm. Then come the Rabbitohs, Sharks, Warriors and Raiders, all on 20 points before we hit the big gaggle of the sort of mid-table crowd, starting off with the Eels on 18 points, and then you'll reel off the next load.
Yeah. So, yeah, we got at 9th place, we've got the Titans with 18 points. Dolphins, Roosters are also on 18 points in 10th and 11th. Then we've got Manly, 12th with 17 points. Cowboys with 16 at 13th. Knights, 14th with 15 points. And the Dragons, 15th with 12. Cowboys, Bulldogs, 16th with 12. And then Tigers back in last place with 10 points. So we talked about it already, about how close the ladder is. I did my mid-season review on my website this week, and I said the Warriors are 6th right now, 4 points away from being 1st, and only 2 points away from being 12th. That's how close it is. So it's crazy. I haven't seen it this close in some time.
No, and I think, look, whilst there are teams that are going to be in this section that I'm about to say that aren't realistic of making the top 8, I think the cut-off at the moment to make a top 8 is 14th in Newcastle. There's a 3-point gap between them, between the Knights and the Dragons, which is a game and a half, really. So that's the only place where there's a gap in the entire table. And I think we know that we've just seen what's happened to the Bulldogs. I've talked about the Bulldogs already, the worst defence in the league. The Tigers, well, it's Tiger Town, and we know your view on the Dragons as well. Those 3 teams are basically going to be the bottom 3, I think.
Yeah.
And then anybody from the Knights upwards, from a point of view, is still in with a shout at that top 8. Now, do I think the Knights are capable of making it? No, I don't. I don't think the Knights, probably not the Titans either. Maybe the Dolphins will probably won't either because of depth. But I reckon all the rest are in with a shout of making that top 8 still.
Yeah, and the Titans, an interesting fact about them, they've had all 3 of their buys already. So they got 6 points for free already, where teams like Brisbane have had 1 buy. So some of them have got some buys which have helped them out. So I expect to see the Titans perhaps drop a bit. But yeah, if I was looking at it, I would say Cowboys up are still ones that may have a shot at getting into the 8. I think Knights down, like you said, that bottom 4, I think they may go further up the ladder, but I don't see them going very high. So,
yeah, look, the Knights just purely because of the kind of quality of the team, but I agree with you. But I think from a points point of view, the line is beneath them at the moment. They're just above the line. They can still. I don't think they've got the quality. Whereas you say, the Knights, just like the Cowboys, only a point ahead of them, but have a chance there. Some little, we've talked about the Eels making it into the top 8 and how they're heading in the right direction. When the Titans, Dolphins, and the Roosters all move up, that's purely because the Eagles lost at the weekend. So it's the when we look at the form book, the top form teams at the moment, you've got your Panthers, Storm, and Eels are all on 4 wins and a loss, and just that one loss from the last 5 games. Those are the 3 form teams at the moment.
Yeah. So we'll go talk about the tips.
See, I'm bringing stats to the show.
You're bringing stats, yeah. You confuse me with mathematics. I don't like it. I'm a front rower. I don't do numbers. So yeah, we all picked the same this week. We were pretty confident in the 5 games that we knew what we were talking about. We still went above 50% though, Paul. All of us got through.
Yeah, you're slightly better than flipping a coin. Well done, boys.
Exactly. That's how we do it. So we all got 3 out of 5. Obviously getting the first 2 games of the round wrong, picking the Knights and the Panthers to win. So Simon's still leading, 76 out of 121. I'm second with 72 out of 121, and Richie is dead last, 71 out of 121. And I'm not going to spoil it, but I'm the only one who is different from Richie and Paul's pick this week. So as Simon said, it's a volatile competition, very hard to tip. You kind of got to
a bad workman blames his tools.
You still got 4 points ahead, so I need you to really start picking badly. That was all of that. So we may as well go into questions. Paul, did you have a few? Oh, you want to?
No. We've talked about multi already, haven't we? We just got one from the live chat, really. Nicholas, here and now, Brad, will Queensland wrap up the series tonight?
100%.
There we go.
I'll be very shocked if I see New South Wales come in and beat them in Queensland. It's happened before, I know, but I just don't see it.
So, do you want to go with your question first, or should I go with mine for you?
I'll
go with mine because it was following on from that. So,
if follows on.
New South Wales lose tonight, which you've said they're going to, does Freddie lose his job? And if so, who would you appoint in his place?
So, I expect him to not make it out of the series with the job. I don't know why they gave it to him. I don't rate him as a coach at all. He failed as an NRL coach, and he's failed as an Origin coach. So he's just not a coach. A great player, not a coach. Who would I appoint in his place?
So would you get rid of him after this game, and or would you let him see the series out?
They'll see the series out. It's a dead rubber in the last one. It's not going to matter. But who would I bring in? I honestly don't know who I'd bring in for his place. I've always wanted to see like a Craig Bellamy have a go at this level. I don't think he's even interested. I'm at a blank right now with who I would pick.
Well, it's a strange one, isn't it? It can't be an NRL. You can't. I mean, it's not really a full-time gig, is it? For three games a year.
No.
But you can't give it to an NRL coach because they're all coaching and they got their own teams who are active at the same time. So it's a strange one, really, as to who wants it, because you're only really active for 2 months a year. I mean, what do you do the rest of your time? But who's good enough to warrant it? It's a difficult one to do.
Yeah, and New South Wales will never pick a Queenslander, really. So I don't know. Not Nathan Brown, surely. No, Nicholas. I honestly don't know. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head that comes out as a New South Wales coach. Who knows? It's a poison chalice. So I don't know who would take it. But my question to you, since I successfully did not answer your one, the Dragons have named Ben Hunt to start in the game against the Warriors on Friday night. With the current situation that we talked about with Hunt and the fact that he's playing Origin tonight, do you think it's a smart move for the club to name him to play 2 days later?
The hell no. Look, to me, this shows this part of how dysfunctional we talk about the Dragons being dysfunctional. The Tigers being dysfunctional, but I think this just shows how dysfunctional the Dragons are at the moment. The guy who they're named as captain for Friday is a guy who wants to leave and is playing 2 days earlier. Sorry, but you've got a guy who's saying, I'm going to throw money at you. I'll give you 150K. I'll take 150K. I could do with the money. We'll give 150K not to play for you. And they're like, oh, you're our captain. You're the guy to lead our boys forward and pull the club together. What a mess are they in? So, look, to name him as captain for Friday night, yeah, it's a joke. It's clearly not a good. It's something's really wrong there. And from a player welfare point of view, you can't have somebody backing up after we would talk about Origin games being perhaps the most physical games around because referees just throw the rule book out the window and just let the boys go for it with Origin rules. So to expect someone to come back 2 days later and play a game in a different country, having to get on but it's not that long a flight, but it's a decent flight.
They're playing in the same country, just different state. They're playing in Wollongong.
Oh, so sorry. Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought it was a Warriors home game over here.
Nah.
The Warriors have taken a home game to Australia. Haven't they done enough of that recently in the last few years?
It's an away game for us.
Oh, well, why do you put the names right around then to the home team first on your graphic? Jeez.
Because it's a special Warriors graphic.
It's a bad graphic, so it doesn't. It makes me say stupid.
If you go to the next slide, anyway, Paul, you see it's done correctly.
So anyway, it's a dumb thing to do. It's wrong. The players' union, when they did their what do you call it? The bargaining agreement at the beginning of the year that they were doing. One of the things in there should have been you're not allowed to play 2 games within 5 days. Have some proper downtime and recuperation because you're just going to break players doing this, and without players, you're not going to have a competition.
Yeah, I could see the reasoning for it if you were a team pushing for the 8 and you needed your best player back, and they went through okay. The Dragons aren't in that situation, and they've got a disgruntled player that doesn't want to play for them, and you're going to push him out there again. I wouldn't do it myself, but in all honesty, if the Dragons want to have a shot at beating the Warriors, they need Ben Hunt. It's as simple as that.
This isn't about winning the game. This is about punishing the player for not behaving. It's what I said to you pre-show. They're doing this to spite him and to punish him, not to. This isn't the kind of thing you do to a player if you try to talk him round to stay with us. It's a joke.
Yeah. Yeah, and like Jacko said there, Dragons have lost the plot. Yeah, I've never been happier. But yeah, I don't like seeing a guy like Ben Hunt kind of getting punished for the fact that the management at the Dragons are so diabolical. Yep. But then on that note, he also signed on with, the worst team in the world. So he kind of deserves it for making a stupid choice. But that was the question.
In the world, hey, that's
worst team in the world. So that was the questions. Thanks, guys. So we'll move into round 17 and the slide that confused Paul. If you go, when you see the actual full team later on, you see the Dragons are on the left. But for this, because we talk about the Warriors, I make them go left on this one. But Richard normally names the Warriors team. Would you like to name the starting 17?
So
would you like me to do it?
Yep. And it's out on the wings. We've got what's her name? Zelensniak. No,
Zelensniak.
Zelensniak. Thank you. And Marcial Montoya in the centres. Berry and your favourite player Pompey. Whilst Luke Metcalf and Sean Johnson are going to be running the show. Up amongst the forwards, we've got Fanua Blake, Egan and Afoa on the front row. Ford and Nicore in what the Union guys will call the engine room, and Harris will captain from 13. On the interchange, Dylan Walker, Josh Curran, Bailey, Syrian, and Tom Ale.
Yep. And then the Dragons, we've got Tyrell Sloan at fullback, Matthew Fingai, I don't know how to say his name. I always get it wrong. And Ravalava on the wings, Sully and Lomax in centres, Jaden Sullivan and Ben Hunt, in the halves, Francis Molo, Jacob Little, and Blake Lowry in the front row, Jack Bird, Jaden Sewer, and Jack DeBellin in the back three. And then on the bench, we've got Amone, Molo, my former heartthrob favourite player, Ben Murdoch-Masilla, turned enemy, and then Zane Musgrove. Before we talk about this game, Paul, when I was typing in the team, I noticed an interesting thing. In the 22 players named for the Dragons, they've got 1, 2, 3. They got 3 Jadens in their team. Nothing special. It was just interesting. They have Jadens. We have hyphenated names. So,
but Jadens with different spellings.
All 3 are spelt different as well. Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, it's going to be an interesting clash. 10 o'clock New Zealand.
So looking
time.
at the 18 to 22, who would step in for Ben Hunt if they do sub him out?
I think Moses Imbai will come in.
Okay, so
number 19. I wouldn't want him there. Personally, as a Warriors fan, I would love him there. But he's kind of that utility back. So I'm not saying he'll be number 7, but it kind of feels like he'll be in the half somewhere if Ben doesn't make it. But yeah, so I've picked the Warriors to win this game. The Dragons have an excellent record against the Warriors. Probably part of the reason I hate them. They've played 34 games, Paul. Warriors won 10.
Wow.
So, the Dragons have their number a lot of the time for some reason. Don't know why. But I'm picking the Warriors to get the job done here. I think, as we talked about, Dragons have lost the plot. The Warriors, beside having the bye, they've kind of been the last 2 weeks before that bye, they started hitting their groove, and they should continue here.
Well, as the better looking Richie, I'm going the same. Yep, Warriors for this one. Look, you've got to say the Dragons a bit of a mess at the moment, letting players go, not letting players go, and forcing players to play when they shouldn't be. Yeah.
Yeah. And if they manage to get the win, look forward to watching next show with me blowing up about the Dragons winning, because I'd be very upset. But yeah, we'll talk about the rest of the round now. We don't have a pretty picture because the NRL don't care about the round when Origin's happening, so they don't put out their beautiful picture that I steal. But yeah, thank you, Paul, for bringing up the actual one. And before we go on, Jacko did mention about Zion is named on the extended bench. Can't wait to see him get a game or two in first grade. Yeah, he's very young, but he looks like a great potential front rower for the club. So I'm looking forward to it as a front rower lover, I guess you could say. So, I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, the actual round. So we talked about the Dragons Warriors. You've got
Jack is saying, geez, Brad will go AWOL if the Dragons look. No, not at all. This is this show is therapy for Brad, and it helps him get through the season when the Warriors aren't going well. This year,
I'll cancel
this year
the show.
With the Warriors going well, obviously he's finding it easy to watch the games, but when the Warriors are struggling, this is his therapy session that helps him get through the season. So no, he'll be here for the therapy.
Well, the Warriors are going to win anyway. So, yeah. So, Simon, you got Simon's picks there. Did Simon go with the Warriors as well, or did he want to ruin my night?
Well, look, ain't St. George versus the Dragon kind of thing, isn't it? So, Warriors clearly beat the Dragon.
Yeah. So, cool. All three of us agree on that one.
Yep.
Yep. First game on Saturday is Dolphins-Eels. I have gone with the Eels. I think they're kind of on a roll, and I feel like the Dolphins' depth is a concern. They will have the Origin players back though, which may help, but I'm going with Eels.
As the better looking Richie, sorry. He's clearly he's learned from my opinion that you don't go against the Dolphins. It's done that too many times before. Got to go with the Dolphins.
Yeah, and Simon went.
Simon, well, look, if you put a dolphin against an eel in the water, dolphins are bigger. They eat the eel, aren't they? So Dolphins it is.
Dolphins as well. So that's
On a personal note, as in Paul, my God, why is anyone picking against the Eels at the moment? I say they're one of the 3 form teams in the competition.
Exactly. That's why I'm gonna get one step closer to Simon. Next up, we've got Panthers Knights. Panthers just seem simple.
Simple one, yeah. This is one of those ones that's going to be a blowout. But let's be honest, Panthers against the Knights. This is what's going to take the Panthers away from being this is going to put the line above the Panthers above the Knights rather than below the Knights. It's going to make that gap occur, I think.
Yeah, and then the next game we've got Storm Seagulls. Kind of rinse and repeat what I just said. I'm going with Storm. Yeah.
Look, look. I mean, you don't want to be, birds don't want to be flying in a storm. Absolutely not. So the Storm again, yeah, definitely. This is probably where the Seagulls kind of it's one of the ones we talked about being perhaps they're higher than where they should be in the table. But this is the kind of game that's going to, if they're going to let games slip, this is the kind of game that's going to see them drop back. And they're going to,
Yeah, definitely. And then the first game on the triple header Sunday, we've got Broncos Titans. I'll go on with Broncos. They're top of the table against the Titans, who have got an inflated night spot right now. So it feels super simple. And surprise, it's another Broncos home game. So
another Broncos home game. Yeah, that's this myth that you keep trotting out about their home games.
I'm telling you got to look into the stats.
I am. Looking into the stats. This is the bad piece here. The Broncos at home are 4-3, 4 wins, 3 losses. The Broncos away, 7 wins, 1 loss. The Broncos play better away from home than at home.
But their away games are also at home. So
even their one away game against the Dolphins that's at home, and their one magic round game. Anyway, look, they're gonna. The horses are going to stampede the Titans, and that's what both Richie and Simon think. This is part of why we say the Titans are inflated.
Yeah, and then the next game is Rabbitohs Cowboys. I've gone with the Rabbits. I think Cowboys have been good, but I think the Rabbitohs at home, couple of Origin players back. I think they should get them here. Both Richie and Simon are going with Killer Rabbits against the Cowboys. A little point of warning here: the Rabbits on a 2-3 form, whereas the Cowboys on 3-2 form. So the Cowboys are the form team here in this one at the moment, compared to the Rabbits slightly. But looking at the table position, you've got to back the Rabbits. Yeah, so that was from both Richie and Simon, both picking Rabbits.
Yeah, Rabbits not great at home, though. I mean, 3 wins and 3 losses. They're a 50-50 team at home, which, again, a bit surprising. But the Cowboys on the road are appalling. 1 win, 6 losses. The Cowboys do not travel well.
Yeah. And then the last game, Roosters Raiders. I was tossing and turning on this one, but I've gone with the Roosters. They got that much needed win. It might have put some self-confidence into them, get the Origin boys back and beat the Raiders at home. So I've gone with Roosters.
Richie's also gone with the Roosters. Roosters at home 5-2. The Raiders away 4-3. But the Raiders 3-2. They've got better form at the moment. And Simon's Green Machine is going to be having some roast chicken on Sunday, is what he says for this one. And I think, you'd normally say Roosters, but look, they're not having a great season.
No,
so
it's a risk. I'm playing chess here because I knew Simon would go with the Raiders. So if I get this one, I'm 2 points. I could potentially be 2 points closer to catching him.
If I get it. Go.
But so that's all the picks. So we've got what 1, 2, 3.
So we've gone with everyone's gone with the Warriors,
Panthers,
the Panthers, and the Storm.
Storm, Broncos, and Rabbitohs. So 5 games, 5 out of the 7 we've agreed on.
5 out of the 7. we have agreed on, and I will bring up the multi in a second. But yeah, you got to say that the Warriors are the longest odds of the round from a TAB point of view. And I'll just switch what we're sharing. So there we go. Yeah, so the Warriors at $1.42 are the longest odds. The rest of them, I mean, look, Panthers 128, Storm 127, Broncos 134, and Rabbitohs 137. Look, those are all, I mean, as far as NRL goes, those are all dead cert as far as the odds. As far as that's about as short odds as you get. Let's be honest.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's no such thing as a guarantee in the NRL as we've seen. But I'm feeling confident this week, Paul. I think we're going to get it. So
yeah, but I hear that every week.
Yeah, well, eventually I'm going to be right at some point, hopefully. So yeah, that was round 17's picks. Hopefully we get more right than we get wrong, which is always our goal. So we'll move into the last segment, which is Super League.
Before then, don't forget to back Brad for the Shave for a Cure. The link was in the live chat.
Yep. So this is where we say goodbye to Jacko because he doesn't want to listen to Super League. So cheers for joining us again, Jacko. There was no Super League played because the Challenge Cup quarterfinals are on, Paul. The semi-finals are now in place. They're going to happen on the 22nd and 23rd of July. That's UK dates. Hull KR versus Wigan and St Helens versus Lee.
So UK dates. Do we not have 23rd and 22nd of July here?
We do, but I don't know the time difference. The 22nd there, is that the 23rd here or 24th or 21st? I don't know. Numbers, they confuse me, Paul. So yeah, we had the quarterfinals. Hull KR defeated Salford 28-10. St Helens defeated Hull FC 32-18. Wigan scraped through and defeated Warrington 14-12. And then Lee defeated York RLFC 34-14. So yeah, as I said, Hull KR versus Wigan, St Helens versus Lee. If I'm putting my money on the line, I'm going to say it's a Wigan St Helens final, just because that always seems to be the final anyway.
Yes, it does. That is a regular final. You're quite right. But Wigan struggled against Warrington, whereas HKR had a quite comfortable win against Salford. So yeah, look at perhaps HKR will mean we'll have a cross Pennines clash
potentially. And I see Simon said he donated earlier, so thank you for that, Simon. We'll now just do a rundown of round 16, Paul. So we've got Hull FC versus St Helens, Leeds versus Huddersfield, Hull KR versus Wakefield, so another loss most likely for Wakefield, unfortunately. Castleford versus Warrington, Catalans versus Lee, and then Salford versus Wigan. And then Simon's giving us some help about the time. So it's 12 to 13. We both clicked it at the same time. Sorry, Paul. I'm stepping on your turf. Trick is it's 12 to 13 hours behind New Zealand. That still doesn't help me with the dates. I just get confused. But yeah, it looks like a decent round of Super League. Wigan versus Salford will be interesting. St Helens and Hull FC could be a good matchup. Look, we're up to 1287 on the Shave for a Cure with my beautiful mugshot, which looks not much different to what I'm looking like now.
Well, you're not wearing the beanie tonight, so clearly it's a warm night in your flat.
It is. I had the heater on earlier to combat the horrible weather. But anything else you want to add while you're scrolling the donation page?
I was trying to look to see if any good quotes from people who've donated. So hope no one knocks the hairdresser as they walk past. Great choice of cause to raise funds for, Brad, from Emma. He's my best friend, but I'm not his best friend, says Connor. Whoa, there we go.
Yeah.
Yes, so there we go.
Yeah. And Simon's mentioned that the upsets are more likely in the Challenge Cup than the regular Super League. Yeah, I think there'll be more of a surprise on. I think you could get an upset or two in Challenge Cup as compared to the normal season. I think it's a bit more straightforward, bar that Wakefield shock win over Leeds a few weeks ago. But yeah, anything else you want to add before we go, Paul?
No, it's a pleasure to be back on the back on the main show on the with my face showing. Look, I've been slacking on the Driving Mall show, but we will be looking at getting that back again. But I was busy making wooden toys for kids at the beginning of this week, so sorry, wasn't at home on the Monday night to do the show.
It's the only consistent show on New Zealand Sport Radio is The Standoff. It's always here every Wednesday, rain, hail, or shine.
During the season, it's only because they take 25 weeks off a year that they can actually cope.
It's what we have to do. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight on The Standoff with Brad and Paul. For your weekly update on rugby league, tune into our show next week at 8 p.m. On Facebook or YouTube or any of those other places at your convenience. Just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. Thank you so much for helping me out tonight, Paul. And good night, everyone.
Bye, missing you already.